What's up? 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 What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? The Mad Professor is back once again with another live stream. What's happening, brothers? What's happening, brothers? I hope you guys are doing well on a Wednesday night. It is August the 24th, 2022. And brothers, I want to talk with us about masculinity, the crisis of masculinity in Western culture. I am the Mad Professor. If you don't know who I am, if you are new to this channel, if you are not familiar with what you are seeing right now, this is a Mad Professor broadcast. What's going on? Ah, welcome to the Mad Professor broadcast. And I've got to speak on this situation pertaining to Mr. Andrew Tate and cancel culture. Um, over the last 24 hours, Andrew Tate has released a statement, a public statement. I don't have to explain to you all what's going on with this person. 34-year-old man who lives in Romania. Um, a man who has received a lot of attention and a lot of criticism from neoliberal media. He has been roundly condemned and rebuked by those in the left-wing world, liberals and feminists. He's been condemned as a misogynist. You guys who follow my channel, you guys know that I placed a article on my community tab dealing with Mr. Andrew Tate. Just one of many articles. There are a lot of articles. All you got to do is go to Google and Google his name, and there are a number of places. The New York Times, The Guardian, and others. And I posted the Guardian magazine, the Guardian, excuse me, the Guardian print journal, and their articulation of what they think about Mr. Andrew Trump, Mr. Andrew Tate. Mr. Andrew Tate has been banned from Facebook. He has been banned from Instagram, and apparently there is a move across all sectors of social media to have his content removed from the internet. Andrew Tate, and I've said this, if you guys, what's going on, Ab Media? Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. I said this in my community tab that Andrew Tate is being treated in the same fashion as former President of the United States, Donald Trump. And he is being framed as a dangerous individual. Now, Andrew Tate is not Donald Trump. Andrew Tate might be subject to censorship right now in the same way that Donald Trump is being censored, but Andrew Tate is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a man who is in his late 70s, a man who has been around for a very, very long time, a capitalist, and most recently an American president. And there's no way for you to compare strictly, my guys, there's no way for you to compare strictly a man who is in his 70s, a man like Donald Trump to someone like an Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is not a politician. Andrew Tate is not someone who has any type of decision-making power at the level of policy. He does not exert any type of influence in the political world whatsoever. From what he tells us, and I want you guys to look at, the most recent public statement that he made. This guy is 34 years old. He's a young guy. He is significantly younger than me. And he's really being condemned. He's really condemned. He's being condemned as a misogynist, primarily as someone who is hostile and antagonistic to women, and someone who is being associated with the so-called red pill and the manosphere space. And it's important to know, my guys, that Mr. Tate himself does not quite identify with the manosphere, even though he has been used within the white manosphere, in particular the white manosphere, and he is being associated with them, and particularly the most extreme elements within the white manosphere. Those elements that are being lifted up primarily as being hostile to women in a very, very, very aggressive fashion. But tonight, I wanted to come on and just talk a little bit about what this person who is being framed as a supervillain. I call him a supervillain. He is a neoliberal supervillain. So you guys, a lot of you guys are comic book heads, and I don't have to explain to you what a supervillain is. You all guys know who Thanos is. You guys know who Joker is. You guys know who those figures are who represent a so-called negative principle in the world. So he's definitely not Superman. He's definitely not Captain America. But he is being lifted up as a super villain. And I'm going to take my time tonight, you guys. I'm going to take my time tonight. And I just need to talk freely about this situation and about what's going on with Mr. Andrew Tate and why we need to talk about Mr. Andrew Tate. Now, I need to make some qualifications. I need to make some disclaimers tonight as I address this issue. And I need to say to you emphatically clear that I am not a follower. I'm not a devotee of Mr. Tate. I only learned of Andrew Tate's commentary on the internet within the last 4 to 5 months, particularly with the passing of our dear brother Kevin Samuels. Something happened with the algorithm. What's going on? I see you, Roger Blakely. I see you, Christopher Clipper. Something happened with the algorithm which instigated much of his content. And it was clear that Andrew Tate, after Kevin Samuels, was being positioned by the algorithm to speak to a lot of the issues that Kevin Samuels spoke to. And I have to say, guys, that Andrew Tate and Kevin Samuels are not the same. Andrew Tate and Kevin Samuels speak from different locales. So there's a significant difference between the two. And so I will be very, very careful. I see you, JB Mega Montana. I will be very, very careful in making strict comparisons between Andrew Tate and Mr. Kevin Samuels. But here is the disclaimer that I have to make to you guys, is that I don't particularly find interesting um, parts of his perspective about masculinity. I think that what he is preaching is an alpha male ideology, an alpha male mythology that is very, very persuasive. They're very, very seductive, very, very compelling to young men, to young men who are caught up in a crisis of masculinity in the Western world. And this is the issue that I really want to deal with. This is what I want to deal with. I want to deal with the crisis of masculinity in the Western world and why people like Tate, and even why men's voices right now, heterosexual men's voices, are so potent and prominent on the internet today. If you guys don't already know it, politically, I'm not a right-wing person. Politically, I don't rock with right-wing extremists. I don't position myself in relationship to the alt-right. I definitely have nothing in common, and I'm not allied in any way with the white nationalists who are on the internet, mainly those white males, those heterosexual white males who belong to all of those white nationalist groups and what have you. That's not me. I don't identify with that. And I want you guys to know in particular that I'm very, very careful about talking about the manosphere as something that I particularly identify with. And what I mean by that is that the manosphere in general, the broader umbrella of the manosphere, has a face that is primarily white and male. It's primarily white and male. The manosphere, um, at this particular moment in time, is not one that is very, very sophisticated in terms of issues of race related to class. It is just not really particular in terms of Black men's issues. And for this reason, I don't, when people ask me if I'm a part of the manosphere, I typically say, no, I'm not, I'm not a manosphere person. Now, I will say that I am a part of something that would be regarded as being adjacent to the manosphere, which is the Black manosphere. The Black manosphere. What's going on? What's going on, Ray Knows? What's going on, Mad Scientist? Y'all share, y'all like and subscribe. I'm taking my time tonight. I need to talk about this. I am a part of the Black manosphere. It is the Black manosphere. The Black manosphere is something that is particular. The Black manosphere is something that is unique. The Black manosphere is something that is distinct from the general manosphere. I was attracted to, in 2015, the Black Manosphere as it was represented by Obsidian Mumia Ali and Angry Man, O'Shea Duke Jackson, and other people, BGS Idmore, and so many other people. I'm not going to go down the list. I connected to a part of the internet which deals with male spaces that are particular to Black people, Black society, Black culture, Black issues in the United States. The Black Manosphere is what produced Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels came into the Black Manosphere. Everything that Kevin Samuels learned, and the ideology that he espoused during his short time with popularity was shaped primarily by the Black Manosphere. So I don't identify with the broader Black white manosphere or what have you. I watch their material. Those in the white manosphere who write books, I've read some of their stuff, um, but I just don't. I'm very reluctant in saying that I am a general manosphere person. So those are the disclaimers that I have to make. Those are the disclaimers that I have to make, and I make those disclaimers because I'm not a right wing person. I'm not a right wing. I preach black male independence, BMI, 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 black male independence. And what does that mean? I'm gonna say it again. Black male independence is about black men not being beholden to any political party, not being beholden to any political ideology. We are independent. And what that means in the context of the United States is that the liberal Democratic Party, the conservative Republican Party, those parties do not exhaust uh, the gamut of the concerns that we have. They simply don't. They don't touch on everything. There are problems. There are problems on both sides. There are problems with liberals. I go further. There are problems with leftists, and there are problems with the people who are on the right. There are problems there, and we cannot, in my mind, ignore those problems. But let me go back to Mr. Andrew Tate. Let me go back to Mr. Andrew Tate. So you have a guy who was a millionaire. He was a multi-millionaire who was at the age of 34. What's going on, Brandon? What's going on, Brandon? Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you, my brother. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're here. You have a guy who is young. Man, this guy is young. Tate is young. He is 34 years old. Okay? This guy made his name in sports. He made his name in kickboxing, UFC, MMA, all of that. He's a boxer. He's a fighter, and that's very, very significant. That's very, 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 very significant in terms of trying to understand why he's so popular and what have you. He's a young guy, which means that he has a long life ahead of him. Okay. So we're talking about a guy who was young, and we're talking about a guy who was biracial. He did a video. I put the video in the description box. Y'all go back to the video that he released over the last 24 hours. It's called Andrew Tate's Final Message. And basically, in this video, what he does is basically articulate who he is, his perspective. Mr. Tate is doing damage control right now. He is doing damage control. He's doing damage control. He is responding to his critics, responding to those who were responsible for him being taken off of Facebook and Instagram and the other people who want to ban him from other social media platforms. Event Duveau, from what we understand, Mr. Tate is a biracial person. He's a biracial person. He has a black father, and who he talks about a lot. He doesn't talk about his mother too much, but I know he has a black father. I'm assuming that his mother is white. I don't know what kind of white woman she is, whether she's a white woman from America or a white woman from some Western European country or what have you. This is a guy who was born here in the U.S., born in Chicago, and grew up in the United Kingdom, where he came of age and what have you. And so those are the bits of information that we have about this guy's biography. But the main critique right now that is directed towards him, and the reason why this guy has been deplatformed is because of his views, his traditional views. He's a traditionally masculine guy. brought up under a traditional masculine code. His views, his commentary over the years on women and what he thinks about women's capacities, in terms of women being wives, women being mothers, women in the home, women's overall relationship with men. Those views are the reason why this guy has been deplatformed. This is why he is being censored right now. He is being framed as someone who is hostile to all efforts to promote the full equality, the full humanity of women as human beings. And the narrative basically is that this is a man who is 30 something years old, 34 years old, who wants to see women back inside the kitchen, who wants women to be barefoot and pregnant, who wants women to be docile and subservient to men. He lives in Romania. He doesn't live in the US. He lives in Romania. And this is why he's being called a misogynist. This is why. Mr. Tate, Mr. Andrew Tate, is a guy who has a very gregarious personality, a guy who is very direct in how he speaks, a guy who, in order to understand him, you have to think about how he was raised and how he came along. And in this video that I'm doing right here, this commentary, I'm not going to talk about women. I'm not going to talk about women. This video right here on Mr. Tate as a supervillain has nothing to do with women. I'm really not interested in the people who are calling him a misogynist. I'm only interested in what he is speaking to and why he is so popular. And I said this, you guys go back to my community page when I posted the link. And the link to the Guardian video where it talks about him being deplatformed. Mr. Tate, from my perspective, is creating a great deal of anxiety and hysteria among the liberal people, the feminist people, and the left-wing people for one reason and one reason alone. Mr. Tate, similar to those of us in this space, are speaking to a vacuum. Speaking to a vacuum. That is, they're speaking to a void. Not only are people like Tate and Tate in particular speaking to a void, Tate is filling a void. And that's why he is popular. And what is that void? That void has to do with decades of animus, decades of hatred, decades of vitriol directed towards men and boys in Western societies. He is speaking to a crisis of masculinity that began at the end of the 1970s and has mushroomed in ways unanticipated up until this very, very moment. And that crisis of masculinity, in a very direct way, has to be in a way in which men have been diminished, fathers have been attacked, belittled, trivialized, and erased, how fathers have been removed. They've been removed from family life all across the West. You guys know, you guys who are part of this Black Manosphere, good evening to all you guys. We black men are canaries in the coal mine. We black men who are part of this space, we have been talking about this decimation. Because if there is a crisis of masculinity that exists in Western societies, white Western societies, that crisis of masculinity is deeply, 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 deeply embedded and represented in African American culture. Because we have been the subjects of colonization, domination, and control. Black families for the last 50 years have been sabotaged by the welfare state, by family courts, by the criminal justice system, and by corporate America. Emasculated, decimated, suppressed. And it has created a real crisis. A crisis for men who live in a society where, particularly black men, the preference is not for the development and flourishing of men and women, or men and boys and women and girls. We have been suppressed in ways where only one side of black society is given any type of push, where only one side of black society has received some semblance of empowerment, and that is the female side, women and girls and what have you. And here we are in 2022 dealing with this as black men. And what it has done is, when you decimate a male population in a society that is male dominated, particularly dominated by white males, what you have done essentially is you have made it next to impossible, for men and boys to successfully navigate a society that they don't control. And the crisis of masculinity that we're dealing with right now, guys, this crisis, y'all share, y'all like, and y'all subscribe. I'm taking my time because this is very, very important. I was going to wait until Friday to do the stream. I was going to wait, but this has been weighing heavy on me. It has to be addressed. In Western societies, the father has been removed. Male authority has been removed. Male guidance has been removed. And in its place, what you have are female survival strategies. Female survival strategies. What we have is feminism. What we have is womanism. What we have is the primacy of the way in which women operate and exist in the world. So right now in 2022, you have young men from all sorts of backgrounds who have been raised primarily with one principle. They have been raised with one principle. They have been raised primarily with the female principle. They have been raised with female strategies, life strategies. I just did my last video. Y'all saw my video I did on this therapist and this nonsense about black men and emotional intelligence. And that therapist who I talked about in my video, she had bald ideas and co-signed an article that was written by a white male feminist about why men are lonely. And the focus of that article and the focus of this woman, thank you, Jason Hales. Thank you for that. I appreciate your support. The focus of that article and the focus of that woman was on emotional intelligence. And if you go back to my live stream, and I'm going to say this here, I'm going to add upon that, is that there is this fundamental belief. There is this fundamental belief that the female emotional orientation, the emotional orientation of a woman, the psychology of the woman is fundamentally, and I talked about this in my article, because psychology is shaped primarily by an engagement with the white female, the middle to upper class white female. Psychology, the whole discipline, it's really about white women, women from a particular class. And the white woman is used as a standard, she's used as a normative measurement for all human beings. So if you want to be regarded within the Western world as fully human, what you have to do is you have to approximate, or you have to get as close to white womanhood as you possibly can, because the white woman is the so-called manifestation of what it means to be human. And as I said in this video, my last video, this is erroneous. This is wrong. This is false. And the male feminist psychologists have been pushing this, and the psychology field and psychiatric field, the mental health field, have been pushing this. But here's the problem, guys. Here is the problem. Here is the problem. Men and women are not the same. Men and women. You already know this, but I have to say this for this live stream. Men and women are not the same. Heterosexual men and women are not the same. Heterosexual men and women are not the same. And what psychology tries to do is to fundamentally obliterate the line between men and women. What the therapists do is ignore, downplay, and attempt to erase irreconcilable differences between men and women. Heterosexual men and women. There are irreconcilable differences between the genders. And these irreconcilable differences are tied to biology, they're tied to socialization, they're tied to so many things, they're tied to culture, they're tied to so many things. But the differences begin with biology. They begin with anatomy and physiology. They deal with, they begin with the hormonal differences between men and women. And we're living in a society right now where, particularly among the liberals and the leftists and the feminists, they're trying to erase all of that. The goal is to create a society, some call it a gender-neutral society, a gender-neutral society. What is a gender-neutral society? A gender-neutral society is a society where you don't have any bathrooms, where you don't have bathrooms that are identified according to sex. You don't have bathrooms for women, and you don't have bathrooms for men. That's why you have this whole thing with the transgenders. And that's why when you go to some places, liberal establishments, liberal establishments, liberal restaurants, liberal businesses, or what have you. You might go to, sometimes you might find a Starbucks that's this way. And they have bathrooms that do not designate male or female or man or woman. They don't have, they just have, they're just bathrooms. These are gender neutral bathrooms, meaning anybody can go into the bathroom. Now, the idea of a gender neutral society is an idea that sounds, it sounds provocative, it sounds even interesting inside of a college classroom. It's interesting in a college classroom. It is interesting in a graduate seminar, a graduate seminar. In other words, it sounds interesting, it sounds provocative, or what have you. For many people, it makes sense, but it only makes sense at the level of theory, at the level of a high level of abstraction. But when it comes down to the concrete, real world, when it comes down to the world of human beings, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. That's why the gender neutral bathrooms and that whole movement in this society is going to be restricted to a particular sphere in American culture. It is less than likely that you're going to have public institutions, and we're talking about parks, we're talking about publicly funded institutions. You're talking about schools, even colleges, public colleges and public universities and what have you, public schools. It is less than likely that these institutions are going to fundamentally obliterate the differences between men and women. Thank you, what the had a soul. I hope I'm saying it correctly, my brother, but thank you for that. Yeah, kids, we have to really think about the future of children in that type of society. My God, we have to really think about that. But here's the point, here's the thing. There is this attempt to feminize men. There is this attempt to turn men into women. And that's what all this emotional stuff is all about. And that's what feminism is all about, because the belief, here is the belief, the fundamental belief is that women are less aggressive than men. Here's the fundamental belief, that women are not prone to violence as men are prone to violence. Here's the belief that women are naturally benevolent and altruistic, that women naturally take care of human beings, that women are morally superior among the so-called sexes, that women have a whole bunch of virtue, and that the problem of societies is that there is not enough of femininity in the world governing our institutions, governing our schools, uh, governing businesses, controlling the legal arena, the family. You get it, so on and so forth. So men have to be feminized. Boys have to be feminized. And so the feminists over the last 30 some odd years, they have been very, very successful in feminizing boys, or at least attempting to feminize boys through the schools, attempting to lessen the aggression among boys in the schools. And if you notice now, I grew up in an era, I'll give an example, guys. I grew up in the era when we had bullies. I grew up. I grew up in the era of bullies. Bullies. I grew up in the era when you went to school, you had people who were bullies. You had these people who had some type of dominance within the school, and they would they would prey on people that they perceived to be as either weak or inferior to them. They just picked on people that they believed that they could exploit. This is what the bullies did. I grew up in an era of bullies. And when I grew up with the bully, I grew up in a time where there was no protection from the bully. I grew up in the time, that's me, that you either allowed the bully to take advantage of you, beat you up, dominate you, turn you into, their own little plaything, or you resisted the bully. You fought the bully back. You let the bully know that you were not going to be bullied. You got into it with the bully. Bloodshed happened with the bully. You were sent to detention as a result of the bully. And if things got real bad, you might have gone to, when I said detention, I mean in schools, indoor detention or suspension. And if things got real bad, you might have got arrested and you might have been sent to a juvenile facility, okay? And you're standing before a juvenile judge or what have you because you're dealing with a bully, or you tried to deal with a bully. So I come from the era of the bully. A lot of you guys are products of the era of the bully where you had to fight the bully. And you can't fight the bully with femininity. You cannot use feminine strategies to fight a bully. You can't use them. Feminine strategies do not work with people who are trying to dominate you. Feminine strategies do not work with people who are trying to exploit you. Feminine strategies do not work with people who are trying to manipulate you, people who are trying to turn you into slaves, people who are trying to conquer you. It is the masculine principle. It is the masculine principle which allows you to deal with and to overcome the bully. But fast forward, I'm no longer a boy. We live in a different world. And in the world that we live in, you have an entire generation of kids who don't know, they don't have the skills. They're not encouraged to. And matter of fact, they're discouraged from going to war with the bully. And in fact, these kids are in a situation where there are extra punitive measures that are exacted against you if you attempt to retaliate or to go to war with your bully. So instead of teaching kids how to deal with the bully, kids are not really given any skills whatsoever. For this reason, you have lots of stories. Some of you guys who pay attention, you have lots of stories. There are stories. I've seen these stories over the years. I'm not going to post them. You guys are smart. You have the internet. You can Google bullies. There are stories of kids, especially boys. There are boys who have deleted themselves. 8-year-old boys, 9-year-old boys, 10-year-old boys, raised by single mothers. And that's the key thing. Boys that were raised by single mothers, raised by their mothers, who were bullied in school. They couldn't do anything about the bully. They were not encouraged to fight the bully. They were discouraged from fighting the bully. They didn't have the sensibilities the aggressiveness, and even the violence to go at the bully. And what did those boys do? Those boys wound up deleting themselves. They deleted themselves. You have stories of boys going into closets. You have boys, y'all share, y'all like, and y'all subscribe to the channel. If y'all want to support this, hit the Cash App $ BMI 3000, Cash App $ BMI 3000. Thank you for that, BGS. You can support via the super chat. You have boys who took themselves out, raised by mothers, raised by women, because they didn't know how to deal with a bully. And the schools that they went to made it difficult for them. They discouraged them from dealing with the bully. The feminine strategies didn't work. The feminine didn't work. Bullies are here to stay. I don't care what nobody says. Bullies are here to stay. And so the feminists in the schools, they've been trying to get rid of bullies. You can't get rid of bullies. Bullies are a part of the human condition. They're just there. They're not going to go anywhere. You can also call bullies a-holes. The bullies are a-holes. You have a-holes, a-holes, a-holes. I'm going to say assholes. You got assholes in culture. The asshole in a society is not going anywhere. An asshole is something that's going to always be with us. And as a man, if you're not an asshole as a man, if you're not a bully as a man, you're going to have to deal with an asshole. You're going to have to deal with a bully at some time in your life. And this is where the crisis of masculinity comes in. This is the crisis of masculinity. This is the crisis. And what is the crisis? The crisis is the inability to deal with a society that presents men with challenges that they cannot avoid, that they can't get around. That's the crisis. As a man, men do not have the same protections from the violence and aggression within society, from the pain. They don't have protection from those things in the manner that women do. Women are protected from high levels of adversity and stress. Women are protected from high levels of violence. And they are protected in ways that men are not. So what happens when you deprive generations of men, generations of boys? Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Mega Montana, for that. We appreciate you. What happens when you have generations of boys and male youth raised in single-parent households, Black single-parent households, white single-parent households, all sorts of single-parent households raised primarily by women? When you've removed fathers in the home, you've pushed fathers out, you've negated fatherhood, you've said that fatherhood doesn't matter, you've said that all you need are women and mothers, and that's all that matters in terms of a family construct and unit and socialization. What happens when you do all of that? Thank you, ghetto user. What happens when you remove all of that and you have a young man who turns 17 years of age, or a young man who turns 18 years of age, and now he has to enter into the world? He has to go to work or go to school. He might go into the military. And for some men, the only option might be the streets or whatever. And in each instance, whether you're talking about the world of work, the world of school, you're talking about the military, or you're talking about streets, You're talking about worlds that are dominated by and controlled primarily by men. Male psychology, male socialization. So here is the crisis. The crisis is that you have these young men who do not have the equipment to navigate a society that does not look like the home that produced them. So you grow up in the single parent household, you grow up around women, you grow up being socialized by women, but when you leave the house, you're entering into a completely different world. And this is why Daniel Patrick Moynihan's report on the Negro family in 1965, this is why that report was and continues to be significant. Because the point that Moynihan was making in the report, when he talked about Black males, particularly in urban centers, thank you, Machismo TV. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I talked about this earlier, but I'm going to come back to it. What do I think prompted his coordinated cancellation? I said that in the beginning, but I'm going to come back to this before I end. Daniel Patrick Moynihan understood that you have these Black males who were entering into a white male dominated society, in institutions dominated by white males. And that these Black males who were being socialized in these, what they call the matriarchal households, you might call them, today we call them matrifocal or whatever, they did not have the skills, the tools to adequately navigate a white male dominated society. And so what you're saying is that these guys have been set up for failure based upon how they've been socialized. Now, people push back on the Moynihan report because they were saying, well, it's not the family structure, it's primarily racism. Well, you can't understand the family structure apart from racism. So it's not an either or. It's not either racism or the family structure. Both of them have to be understood together. But the point is that if you don't have male figures, if you don't have the masculine principle, if you don't have male guidance for young males who are coming along, those males are going to have to live without any particular script that's going to help them navigate. And what they do have, the feminine principle. And the feminine principle is a kind of script, but it is a faux script. It is an inadequate script because the feminine script does not help a man navigate a society that is dominated by men. Good to see you, Dr. Thunder. Good to see you, Dr. Thunder. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Keep it 100. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you, Charles Faulkner. Woo! Woo! So here's the thing. You eliminate the masculine script. You eliminate the traditional masculine script, which has existed for thousands and thousands of years. The traditional masculine script is not Eurocentric, because the feminists want you to believe that it has to do with some type of Eurocentrism, Eurocentric patriarchy. It is not Eurocentric. It is not exclusive to colonial Europe, France, and Britain. It's not exclusive to the Dutch. The traditional masculine script is a script that has existed all over the world across human civilizations. There are warriors. I'm going to give you an example. The whole idea of a warrior. There is not a single culture, there is not a single culture on the planet that does not have the concept of a warrior. The warrior is a masculine script. There is no culture on the planet, and there is no known culture that we have that does not have a warrior code, a warrior script. It's in all cultures. That's masculine. Once you remove that script and you take that from the male, you take that from the boy, or you deprive the male or you deprive the boy of that script in a society where you have other males who run the society, where the script is intact, the script is still intact, the script is still intact. Those males who have not grown up with that script, they find themselves running up against a wall, a wall, a wall, a wall, a brick wall. And this is the crisis. This is the crisis. The feminization of men, or the attempted feminization of men in Western societies, has fundamentally failed. The project of feminizing men has failed. It has failed. The liberal feminist project of feminizing boys, feminizing male youth, has fundamentally failed. Why has it failed? Why has it failed? It's failed because those same boys, those same male youths, here's the thing, here's what's interesting. And the Black community and Black society is a good case study for this. Those same boys who grow up in those single parent households, who grow up being deprived of masculinity, even though they grow up with some confusion, even though they grow up with a lack of guidance and a lack of understanding, even though they grow up without full-blown male authority, biologically, there is something that yearns, there is something that pushes them towards the masculine script. So what you have is, and I said this on my community tab, peace out to all you guys, y'all share, y'all like, and y'all subscribe. Hit the Cash App, $BMI 3000, Cash App, $BMI 3000. You know what? I think I might drop the link tonight. So I don't want you guys to go too far. Keep it 100. I might drop the link. Dr. Thunder, if you stay around, Charles Faulkner, if you're around, I think I might drop the link tonight, because we could talk about this right here, man. So I hope that you guys stay around for a minute. Okay? You have, and this happened to me. I grew up in a single parent household. And I found myself in a situation growing up in a single parent household. I had some masculine figures in my life. I played football. I was a wrestler. I was on a wrestling team. I started wrestling when I was in junior high school, and I continued wrestling in high school. I played football. So I had the masculine figures in sports. I had my first coach, my first wrestling coach, Samuel McWoodson, who was a Black man. He was a bodybuilder, very disciplined man. He was the one who really taught me masculinity. traditional masculinity, disciplined masculinity, and we got to get to that. He taught me stuff that my mother could never teach me. And I cleaved to it, and I attached myself to it when it was presented to me. And here's the thing, I met my wrestling coach as a result of me going to war with a bully. That's how I met my wrestling coach. I was bullied by a kid in my school, a kid who was a bodybuilder, who was stronger than me, who kept picking on me. And one day I got tired of him picking on me, and we went to war in the classroom, and I almost broke his skull. And we both were sent to suspension, indoor suspension. And that's when I met my wrestling coach. And it changed my life. And that bully never messed with me again. He had nothing but respect for me after that moment. But here's the point. I rejected my mother's efforts to feminize me. I rejected them. I rejected them. She didn't know she was doing the feminizing thing, but I rejected it. And I rejected it in a very explicit way once I left her house. It happened before I was leaving. In my late teens, me and my mother had some real problems. We had some real problems. I couldn't wait to get out of her house because my mother, we were like two rams. Me and my mother, we were like two rams. So you can just imagine what it was like. I don't have any brothers or sisters. I was her only child. I was a son. I was a teenager, and we were wrestling because I did not want her authority anymore. I needed to be my own person. And I'm going to tell you, when I fast forward, I went to college, and as soon as I did my college, I left home. And when I left home completely, I divested myself of much of my mother's influence. And I had to navigate the world on my own. And in the process, I met other men and what have you who had traditional masculine scripts, so on and so forth. But the point that I'm making, guys, the point that I'm making is that Andrew Tate is speaking to the crisis of masculinity. He's not speaking perfectly to it, but he's speaking to it. The liberals and the feminists are refusing to acknowledge the ways in which they have diminished masculinity in American society and across Western societies. They refuse to acknowledge that they destroyed fatherhood. They destroyed so many aspects of manhood and traditional masculinity, and it has left a lot of young boys and young men bereft. When they destroyed marriage, when the institution of marriage was destroyed in America, you destroyed a significant part of masculinity. Marriage used to be a rite of passage. Marriage used to be for men and women, but marriage was a rite of passage. It was an initiation into adulthood. Becoming a married person meant that you were becoming an adult. Having children, taking care of your children, going to work, having a job. Getting married, going to work, having children, that was once a part of the traditional script of masculinity. That was your rite of passage into adulthood. And these people destroyed this script. Thank you, Ray Knowles. Thank you, Ray Knowles. Thank you for the support, guys. Thank you for all the support. The Cash Apps. The Cash Apps are coming in. Thank you, Eli Sanyinka. The Cash Apps are coming in. It was a rite of passage. Not only was it a rite of passage, but it was tied to religion. It was tied to God. It was tied to purpose. It was tied to idea that to be a man meant that you tied yourself to something that was much bigger, something much larger than yourself. We appreciate you guys. Being a man meant being something bigger, attaching yourself rather to something that's much bigger than yourself. You had a sense of purpose. And this is old school. Here's some old school values. You had God. He was the hierarchy. This is the hierarchy. The old hierarchy, the old classical hierarchy. God, man, and family. That's the three things. God, man, family. God, man, family. God, man, family. That was the traditional hierarchy that was a part of the script of masculinity that had existed for thousands and thousands of years all over the world. And this was the basis, of what we call civilization, the basis of civilization. So being a man and entering into manhood, it was about purpose. It was something bigger than yourself. So once you strip that, once you get rid of that format, once you get rid of that blueprint, it is inevitable that you're going to have populations of young men who are left to their own devices, young men who have no purpose, no guidance, no anything. Voila, Andrew Tate comes in. And it just doesn't begin with Andrew Tate. But he is right now the avatar. He is the avatar for the crisis of masculinity, because what he is doing, what he has done, and again, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about his perspective on women. But when you have men who talk about discipline, he talks a lot about discipline, he talks about purpose. Again, he's a boxer. And when you go back and you look at his public statement that he released over the last 24 hours, he talks about his father, and he talks about the lessons that his father taught him about life. And one of the key lessons that his father taught him about life was that you can't expect someone to come and save you from all of your problems. The bully, that you're going to be presented with crises, you're going to be presented with challenges in this world that you're going to have to deal with, and you're not going to have the luxury of making appeals to somebody else to help you deal with your problems in life. In other words, nobody is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. And the whole idea of no one coming to save you is foundational for understanding manhood. That you got to do it on your own. Manhood. All you guys in the military, all you guys who've gone through the military, all of you guys who have participated in sports, competitive sports, all of you guys who are in business, you're in the business world, in the business arena, you guys know what you guys know what all of this means. It's very significant that Tate is very popular because he's a boxer, because he's a fighter. That is very, very important. It's very, very important. I don't have to tell you all guys. I don't have to tell you guys. You already know this. that we as men, we are not exempt from adversity. We are not exempt from struggle. We are not exempt from hardship. We are not exempt from competition. We are not exempt from any of those things. The world of sports teaches us all the time what it means for us to deal with hardship, what it means for us to deal with adversity, what it means for us to compete, to get to the next level, to attain high levels of performance. So this guy who has been successful in the world of kickboxing, and he has applied his success in the arena of sports, MMA, UFC, and all that kind of stuff, he's applied his success to other arenas. He's using these masculine principles to be successful. This man is articulating a traditional masculine script that speaks to young men across the West. And they can call it conservative. The liberals, they want to call it conservative. The feminists want to call it conservative. The leftists, they want to call it conservative and all that kind of stuff. I say it's traditional. I don't like the word conservative. I say it's just traditional. And that is that this is stuff that has been around for thousands of years, and this stuff has worked. It's worked. And what we're doing in these Western societies with gender, the stuff that they're doing, the feminization of men, and let me say this before I go too further. There are men who are anomalies. I said this. Let me be direct to you guys. You've got the homosexuals, the gay men, the feminine gay men. The feminine gay male is a feminized male, the one who especially, the very feminine, the feminine gay male, he's an anomaly. Gay males represent a very small fraction of the male population. They're a small fraction. They have always been a small fraction. Homosexuals have always been around. The homosexual has always been around. The homosexual is going to always be around. But the homosexual is not the rule. The homosexual is not the rule. The gay male is not the rule. The gay male will never be the rule of masculinity. Never. The gay male will never dictate heterosexuality. Never. Never. It is biologically, it is psychologically, it's impossible for that to happen. The gay males, they don't deserve to be discriminated against. I think that people should leave them alone. I never had a problem. I want you, if you don't know this, I never have a problem with gay people not wanting to be messed with. I've never had a problem with that. I've supported that. For years, I've supported people just leaving gay people alone. Leave them alone. Don't try to turn them into anything that they're not. Don't try to turn them into anything that you don't want them to be. Just leave them alone. That was my support of so-called gay rights. Just leave them alone. Leave them alone. Let them be. But they're never going to get in a position where they're going to dictate the rest of the heterosexual population. They can't do that. It is biologically, in my mind, it is biologically impossible. It is psychophysiologically impossible. It's culturally impossible for them to do that. Heterosexuality is the reason why we're here. Heterosexuality is not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't care what these movements say. Not going anywhere. So Tate is speaking to a real crisis of masculinity. And one of the reasons why he's potent is because he's so young. He's a very young guy, 34 years old. 34. 34 years old. This guy's young. He has a lot of living ahead of him. He's young. He's a millionaire. He has his own. He's charisma. He's charismatic for the context he's in. He's straight to the point with his ideas and what have you. And he preaches discipline. He preaches male performance. And you have a lot of young men who they want to get ahead. They want to go further. But the liberals don't like this type of masculinity. The liberals don't want this type of man to exist in the world. Feminism and liberalism, their idea of what a man is a man who is uncompetitive. It's an uncompetitive man. Their idea of what a man is a man who was undisciplined. The liberal and feminist idea of a man is a man who cannot control his emotions. The liberal and feminist notion of a man is a man who was impulsive. And to be honest with you, the liberal and feminist idea of a man is basically a man who is fundamentally a reckless, emotional woman. That's what the feminist liberal idea of what a man is. A man who has no discipline, a man who does not understand order, a man who has no respect for authority, a man who doesn't understand boundaries. No discipline, no understanding of order, no respect for authority, no understanding of boundaries, no creating of boundaries. Traditional masculinity is about order, it's about authority, it's about respect, it's about boundaries. That's traditional masculinity. It's about law. It's about having a code. It's about standing up for something. It's about sacrifice. It's about putting your life on line for something that you believe in. That is traditional masculinity. And they don't want that. They don't want traditional masculinity. Because the reality is, when we talk about women, women cannot live up to the ideals of traditional masculinity. Here is the bottom line. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Women as a group, as a population, women cannot live up to the ideals of traditional masculinity. They can't. They are not equipped to live up to the traditional ideas of masculinity. Now, you're going to have some exceptions. You can always have exceptions. You're going to always have the exceptional female athlete. You're going to always have the exceptional woman who is in business. You're going to always have the exceptional woman who is in the military. You can always have the exception. But as a group, they can't live up to the ideas. They say they want equality with men, but they really don't really want equality. They don't want to really be treated in the same fashion that men are treated. If this society was really serious about equality across the board, and when I mean equality, I mean, all right, they talk about male privilege and all that kind of stuff. Well, okay, let's extend this so-called male privilege to women. You want equity? Let's extend this so-called male dominance to women, and let's see how they hold up under it, under the auspices of equality and equity. Let's see how well they hold up under it. Thank you for the Cash App, 3000 GT Atlanta. So Andrew Tate is the supervillain. He is a supervillain. Because young men are consuming his content. There is a hunger. There is a hunger that exists. There is a void that the liberal world does not speak to. That's it. And the liberal world, the feminist world, it doesn't know how to speak to it at one level. At another level, it does not want to speak to it. It doesn't want to. It just wants it to go away. It wants the hunger to go away. And the hunger is not going away. The hunger is not going away anytime soon. Now I'm going to drop the link in the chat. I hope that and this is only for the brothers. I don't know if Keep It 100. If Keep It 100 is still here, if Charles Faulkner is still around, if Dr. Thunder is still around, if any of you guys, Dr. Thunder, Keep It 100, Charles Faulkner, if any of you guys want to come in and weigh in on this situation with Andrew Tate and masculinity, the crisis of masculinity, I invite you guys to come in. You don't have to. You guys don't have to. I will. Yeah, I got Dr. Thunder in the house. We're gonna bring in Dr. Thunder. Dr. Thunder, how are you, sir?
What's happening, man? How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Thank you for coming up. Hold on. Let me Keep It 100. The link is at Keep It 100. The link. We got the link. I'm gonna drop the link again, my brother, so that you can get it. If Charles Faulkner is around, Charles Faulkner, you want to come in and weigh in, you don't have to, my brother. But you're more than welcome to chime in on this situation, man. Andrew Tate, man, he's all over the internet. Dr. Thunder, man. What are your thoughts on this whole situation, man? Yeah, they've turned this guy into a real super villain, and they're calling him the most dangerous misogynist on social media, man. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, it's interesting. Of course, he's been clipped out of context, and that's standard fare.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I didn't like was he did an interview, sort of post cancellation, where he is sort of. It could look like he's backpedaling,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't really backpedaling. He was just basically saying that, look, this stuff is being taken out of context. He actually believes, he respects women. He thinks that, women should be protected, and, X, Y, and Z, which is not the stuff that he, is taking a lot of heat for, obviously. And so I think that's one angle that they have to make him sort of look. He thinks that, women should be. Yeah, that's one angle that that I think that they can use to try to illegitimize many of the things that he has said. Yeah, I mean, he says some things that, he says a lot of stuff that I agree with, which is just kind of common sense, traditional masculinity stuff. And then he says some stuff that I'm like, okay, well, maybe if you do some more reading, maybe he will change some of his positions. But yeah, it's too bad that we're where we are, with this whole masculinity thing, this whole freaking black boys wearing bonnets and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I
Oh
was
my.
at a this is a couple days ago. It was at a public park,
Mm-hmm.
and my son runs cross country,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was there for his cross country practice. And there's a basketball court there,
Mm-hmm.
and there were three brothers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had to be high school aged uh, black kids
Mm-hmm.
that all had bonnets on playing
Oh my
basketball.
God. Really? Wow.
One of them had a hot pink bonnet on,
Wow.
and you know, and then I saw that LAR movement,
Mm-hmm.
and then in a response to his video,
Mm-hmm.
O'Shea did a video
Mm-hmm.
about this whole bonnets thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that you'd almost believe that this couldn't be true. It can't be true that this is actually happening. But I actually I this man, it's a real sad. It's sad, man. That is like so sad. And you know they have to be single mother raised,
Yeah.
because there's no way any self-respecting man would allow his son
Mm-hmm.
to wear a bonnet in
Wow.
public.
Yeah. They've totally flipped, you know, the norms and everything. Yeah. We gotta keep it 100 in the house. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. I can hear you well. Yes, sir.
So, let me move over so you can see me. Was talking to a female friend of mine about this whole thing, and we're at a point where this is resembling fascism
Mm-hmm.
in a major way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I see a lot of guys saying that they don't agree with everything Andrew Tate says, or this, that, and third, and that's cool. The things that I've heard him say, I'm not that mad at.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he's like a younger player version of Kevin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, but this, like, I don't think, have we ever seen anything like this before, where someone has been banned off of all social media? I think that this is the first time, because social media at this point right now is how, because right now I'm banned on Facebook. I got 30 days again. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But you guys see
Stefan
me on
Stefan
YouTube.
Molyneux.
Huh?
Stefan Molyneux.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
was somebody that got banned on all social media. But
everyone.
but he was banned because they were saying he was alt right,
Mm-hmm.
white supremacist in XYZ. Yeah.
Okay. See, this is the thing though. To an extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to talk about these guys, like, in a way, I have to defend their right to say what they want so that we can say what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, you got your people that you talk to, like, just because you silence people doesn't get rid of them. It doesn't get rid of their point of view. It doesn't get rid of their ideology or the people that follow them. These people aren't going anywhere. Andrew Tate isn't going anywhere. If anything, you made him a someone to people who may not have heard of him before. This is like, the gun with the barrel that bends towards you. If this is where we're headed, right? I often joke about, being, when I'm on YouTube, I'm like, hey man, I'm trying to get canceled. Like I joke around about that all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if this is where we're headed, to where, like, the stuff that he's saying, and I don't, like, somebody needs to tell me the most egregious things that this man is saying, because I haven't heard anything egregious
Mm-hmm.
that he said. But is getting to a point where, like, these these liberals, they're pushing everything to the right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
This is gonna have like real political ramifications. They're pushing a lot of men, period. Like they're pushing men to the right side of the table. For them to push black men to the right side of the table, that's a big deal because the right ain't really for us,
Mm-hmm.
but right now it's looking better than the left. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's crazy
Yeah.
because I'm not a fan of conservatism and things of that nature. They're not fans of us.
They're not. Yeah.
But these people don't understand what they're doing. Is to say, this is the type of stuff that won Trump the election.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And will probably do it again.
Yeah.
This is gonna have real political back like it's gonna backfire politically,
Mm-hmm.
socially, politically, all of those things.
Yeah, the straight free thinking black man doesn't have really anywhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really have anywhere to go. The black church has not been. I mean, for many years, for decades, has not been a place for us.
Right.
Academia is not a place for us, and the black community is not a place for us, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
With the way that the place has been socialized. Um, so it's tough. It's very isolating.
Mm-hmm.
It's very isolating. And it concerns a lot of this stuff concerns me. Not just because of the sort of large political ramifications and all that stuff. I think is critically important. But just even on a one-to-one sort of a basis, it's like an attempt to sort of divide and conquer, try to push people into smaller and smaller, little places where they can actually be free to express and free to say what's on their mind, free to vent, all that kind of stuff. And it makes people kind of look over their shoulder like, hey, is this going to be the day that they come and get me?
Yeah.
That whole thing. And the thing that you said, the fascism thing, that's what that's all about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I watched his it was called what did he call it? It's called the last, Andrew Tate
Last message, final message, something
Yeah, the
like that.
final message. Yeah, man. And um I guess to speak to what Dr. Thunder kind of pointed to, the way in some sense he was being conciliatory. You know what I mean? And I give him credit. I saw him attempting to explain himself to the world without necessarily, sacrificing, um, what he might regard as his kind of core values or what have you. But he kept talking about context and providing context because so much of what people have consumed um, from him or by him, or the imagery and stuff like that, it's been chopped up and it's been subject to editing and all that kind of stuff, and dramatic effect and all that. But he seemed to explain himself. Now, one thing I found interesting, because he did talk a lot about women's issues and all that. Because the misogynist thing, because that's the big thing. So here's the thing, and I've said this about black men. I mean, that word misogyny, it is a word that is used so loosely, and it is a word that is a blunt instrument. You know what I mean? I mean, to call a man a misogynist, for me, is almost like, it's the same thing as calling a man a criminal. You know what I mean? And when they double down on that, because he was really, and that was the big thing. That's the big thing that contributed him being deplatformed. Um, but in that video, he he tried to make it clear that women, or male interactions with women, don't represent the core of his total persona, message, and everything like that. And that's why even when I came on tonight, I didn't want to talk about or spend a whole bunch of time talking about women and women's roles and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And dating or what all that, because there are other aspects of traditional masculinity that um, have to be dealt with. You know what I mean? So I guess, no, over in looking at him, there was a sense in which, well, he was being diplomatic without, like, completely buckling in. It's clear that this social media cancellation has hit him. You know what I mean? In a serious way, and this is damage control. And it's going to be interesting to see what that video does, man. Because when I first saw it, I saw it early this morning when it was first released, and it had like maybe 20,000 views, and then this evening, by the time I got back to it, he was almost at 1 million views. You know what I mean? And it's a whole hour, and some of it is redundant and everything like that. Um, but it's interesting to see what's going to happen. Now, I want to ask you guys, because I kind of feel I have some thoughts about this, because I know I've dealt with this in my own personal professional life, where I felt like, especially from the people who are liberals who I know and feminists and what have you, who have had things to say about what I say on social media and stuff like that. And people have come at me in ways where I was asked to explain myself. And I don't know. I'm on the fence with that, because I really don't, right now, I really don't feel like I need to explain anything to anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm like, F you. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to explain nothing, and I don't care if you like me or not or whatever. If you don't get it, you
Explain
get
yourself to me.
it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of I mean, what do you guys sense? I mean, you guys are content creators and everything, and you know, you go back and forth with people and stuff like that. Do you have? I put it like this, man. In Marcus, we had this conversation back in the day. We talking about just having the FU attitude,
Right.
and FU money. This guy has FU money, right? He got FU money, real FU money, but he still, I guess, because he wants to make more money. You know what I mean? Coming back, explaining himself, man. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I don't have FU money, but I do have FU tenure. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, in that whole asking you to explain yourself thing, it's interesting, because in a scenario that not too long ago I was in, uh, some uh, some anonymous folks
Hmm.
went to my boss
Hmm.
and complained about some things and characterized me as being misogynist,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and of course, they didn't have to tell me who it was, and
Yeah.
it was anonymous and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, what am
Yeah.
I supposed to be looking over my shoulder and stuff? Like, is it this person? Is it this person? That kind of stuff. Um, and it's interesting because the stuff that I say, I mean, is pretty. It's kind of I mean, you know, I say some stuff that I know that people they're not gonna like. They're not gonna want to hear me say that. I understand that, and it's going against the grain, the white liberal thing. It's I'm very critical of that. They're not gonna like it, but I should not have to explain myself. And my platform was not created by my employer. I'm not doing anything inappropriate in the classroom setting. You know, I just talk about music when I'm teaching. So really has nothing to do with what you know with anything else. I mean, I have tried to do some things where if I have a particularly spicy episode of Thunder's Thoughts or something, I will, you know, I put it behind a paywall, and all of those go behind a paywall after a month anyway. I'm sorry, after a week anyway. But yeah, we shouldn't have to explain ourselves. The misogynist thing is interesting because in many ways, I think people are more afraid of being called a misogynist than a racist.
Yeah.
You know? And so as soon as that word comes out, I think the instinct is just to totally start apologizing and buckling down and stuff like that. But I think more of us have to be willing to now, you know, I try to take in people's criticism because I'm still trying to improve as a person, and maybe I can be inarticulate in the way that I express something. And so maybe if I think it's not disingenuous them asking me to explain myself, maybe I'll do it. But otherwise, I don't even think that it's that. I almost feel like when people ask you to do that, they actually trying to give you more rope to hang yourself with. So I don't know. That's a tough thing, man.
Yeah. You know, because I mean, you know, I've had moments where, you know, I'm interacting with people who want me to explain myself. You know what I mean? And as though, and here's the thing, because it assumes when people put you or want to put you in that position, it assumes that there's some authority, that they are like, you know, this infallible, you know, court, that you're, you know, they're, you know, jury and they're gatekeepers and all that kind of stuff. And we got the officer of the doggone law in the house.
You know,
What's
I
going
just
on? What's going on?
not much good doctors. What's up?
Man,
Keep it 100, Dr.
What's
Thunder.
going on?
yes,
You know,
sir.
for
Yes,
now, what we're gonna call you, Dr. Thundercat. That's what we're gonna call you, Dr. Thundercat.
What's happening?
What's
No,
up? What's up?
I
What's
had to
up?
turn my camera on because you know I can't be as cool as Keep It 100. You know, and have my mood light in the background, making me look like a statue every time I come up there, man. Just like I'm just rocking out with the Naruto shirt, and the sun's not out, but the guns are out.
There we
But
go. There we
it's
go.
it's
There we go, man. Good,
it's
good,
No doubt.
it's
man.
funny
Good,
that
good.
you mentioned that about masculinity and
Yeah.
Andrew Tate, and it's funny from all the places I've been and the arenas I've dealt. That's just normal everyday masculinity to me.
Mm-hmm.
You have the BS talkers and the dirty walkers.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's innately what I went through from being a wrestler, from boxing, from MMA to going to Fort Benning, Georgia, and basic, which was at that time, and I think it still is, all male.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that.
Mm-hmm.
A
Mm-hmm.
lot of black men come out of, the gynocratic household and then it
Mm-hmm.
gets into basic training where it's nothing but men and you got to hold your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong with that? Like, men should be challenging the environment. Men should challenge and see and test themselves out. Like, when I went overseas to wrestle, the point was my parents asked me, we'll get the money up for you to go. You think you good? Hell yeah, I'm that good. Even though in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know. I want to see if I'm that good too. But I was that good, and it was funny because I've said this before on my show and others. They are so trying to breed the masculinity out men, and it's hurting them in every way possible. You're not getting enough. You're not getting enough husbands. You're not getting enough men, and you're not getting enough protectors. Remember, we are at a deficit not only in relationships, but birth rate. We're at a deficit in firefighters, police officers, and military. Give them a reason to believe the system because you're going to need it. Think about it. You're a single woman. Who's coming to your aid is usually going to be a man. Women don't protect women. They just don't. And fundamentally, when they're honest and they're ready to have conversations like this, I always say, think of the man you respect the most. And then I say, would he marry you?
Yeah. And here's the thing, man. It's interesting, man. I've been looking at this story. There's a story out of Atlanta, man. There was a black woman, African woman from Cameroon, who killed she killed 2 white men and critically injured one. And a 34-year-old woman who was an IT auditor. She was single, no kids, unmarried, and she was working with this accounting firm, and she lived in a condominium that was connected to the accounting firm. And she became a whistleblower because the accounting firm was engaged in, according to her at least, some fraudulent activity, and she tried to report it. Nobody did anything to it, and she felt that she was because she reported it. She put herself on the bad side of management and all that, and felt that they tried to retaliate. Somebody had broken into her apartment and had taken some USB files and stuff like that, which she said had all the incriminating evidence. But here's the crux. So you had this young 30-something-year-old woman. Her family is in Africa, another part of the world, and she feels like she's caught up in this scandal, and she felt like she was a part of this thing, this overwhelming entity. She felt like her life was in jeopardy and what have you, and there was seemingly no way to get out. And so she took the law into her own hands, and she went and she killed her former boss. She killed the manager who ran the condominium that she lived in, and she killed she tried to kill the engineer who worked in the building and everything. She got, before all this stuff happened, she tried to get the police involved and Atlanta police and stuff like that, and I guess they didn't move as fast as she wanted them to move. But I only share this story with you guys because these women out here, if it is true that she's dealing with these corporate structures that are male dominated, okay, these women out here, you know what I mean, trying to be like men and trying to operate in a man's world, and this stuff is caving in, it's crashing in on them. You know what I
Yep.
mean? She had no husband, no boyfriend, no children, no family. She's one of your kind of stereotypical Atlanta professional, educated. I'm gonna say black. Yeah, she's a black woman. I don't care where she come from. She went to Georgia State, has a master's degree and everything. You know what I mean? And you're dealing with that. If she's dealing with the cutthroat corporate world that she says she was dealing with, and that would retaliate and revenge, you're dealing with masculine stuff, bro. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
the women, they ain't built for that.
Yeah.
You know
And
what
I'm
I mean?
I'll tell you what, mad scientists and mad doctors, the craziness of it all is that she only got away with it because they didn't view her as a threat. Because if she was viewed as a threat, she'd have been in some unsolved mysteries episodes.
Yeah.
And that's the only advantage she got to drop on those dudes because I had to warn an ex of mine who's a sergeant of the police department now.
Yeah.
I said, you say you want to be treated equal to men. I said, y'all really don't want that. Because if we treated y'all the same way we treat other men,
Go.
we're not changing your tires.
Look. I'm gonna want to see the same energy towards parity in lumberjacks, skyscraper window cleaners, janitors, ditch hole diggers. That I'm gonna want to see the same energy in parity in those fields as these power fields, white collar stuff, CEOs, politicians, and all of that. Yeah, all of that stuff is total. It's total hogwash. It's never been about uh, equality. It's been about domination. It's been about power, and it's it's the same thing. Case closed this past Sunday. We were talking about uh, 50-50 relationships versus traditional marriage. And whenever if a woman approaches you and says she wants a 50-50 relationship, what she's telling you is that she wants to control the relationship.
Mhm.
That's what she's saying. Okay. Uh, because there is no such thing as 50-50. She wants to be able to make all of the decisions and she wants you to be the person that facilitates it. You still would have to be the one that takes the bullet if somebody bumps in the night, but she wants to be able to still call the shots.
Can you say
That's
that
what she
again,
means.
Dr. Thunder? They didn't hear you. Say it for the Negroes in the back. They in the back of the pews. They
Yeah.
sleeping. They didn't hear you. Say that
Yeah.
again.
Beware of 50-50. If a woman approaches you saying she wants a 50-50 relationship, she wants a partner, any of that kind of stuff, what she is telling you is that she wants to control the relationship. Okay, because there's no other way that can go. The traditional context and Dr. Neal was laying it out well in the beginning. God over man, and then he said over family. Usually when I talk about that, I will break it down into God over man, man over wife, wife over children. But wife over children, that is the family. Man, wife, children, that is the family. So that is the structure. And all of the complaining about not being protected, a prerequisite for protection is obedience. I can't protect you if you won't do what I tell you.
Where did I hear that one from?
Yeah,
Protection is obedience. Say it again, Dr. Thundercat.
that's right. That's right. I may have heard you say it similar fashion. So, but the whole protection thing prerequisite is submission to that vertical line. See, that vertical God over man, man over wife, wife over children, everyone is protected in that line. As soon as someone gets outside of that, they're not protected. So you can't willfully take yourself out of that line, out of that vertical line, and then also complain about not being protected. And with the way that things are going, if you think you're lonely now, wait until this flight, girl.
That's it. That is it. That
Passport
is it.
bros. I'm telling you, it's not going to get any better unless the response, and unless there is a massive calibration of the kinds of values, the kinds of qualities, rather, that are valued in men. Unless that starts to change, it ain't going to get any better.
You know, it's interesting. You know, when Kevin passed away, I heard more than one person, one commentator say, you know, because you know there was so much, you know, reaction, hate, you know, directed at Kevin after he passed. You know what I mean? It's just everything was just split in half, and you know, there were those, you know, who celebrated him. Then you had the haters and stuff like that. And one thing I'll say is, and I have to say, Willie D did a commentary on him. He said, you know, Kevin Samuels, when he talked to black women, he was very nice, and he, you know, he talked about the lane that Kevin had in our space and what have you, and you know, I guess Willie, I would say it's, well, I guess I would say it's prophetic, but he was, I mean, he had his finger on the right thing. He said, you know, somebody's gonna come, you know, now that Kevin is gone, somebody's gonna come and fill that lane, right? And he went on to say that the person who fills this lane is not gonna be as nice and gentle as Kevin, and that he's gonna be harsher, he's going to be more direct, and it's not gonna look good, right? And to be honest with you, I don't want to say that Andrew Tate is the person to feel that who feels Kevin's shoes, but doggone it, he seemed like that harsh dude. He seemed like the person that was kind of prophesied, who would come and just not really care and just lay it out there in the way in which he has. You know, the kind of Trump type. You know, that's why they comparing the guy to Trump and all that kind of stuff, and not really caring about people's feelings and everything.
You know, something that's interesting about Andrew Tate, and this is, I don't think this is generally understood. So Tate will say that he was kind of you know, kind of a heathen or whatever you want to say. Previously, he actually, he's Orthodox Christian. Actually, he sort of got serious about the religion thing, which is interesting because Romania, where he's from, Romanian, the church of the state, as it were, is the Romanian Orthodox Church. You know, so I think that's an interesting thing, and so many of the things I think that he says, I think they're just conveniently clipped out of context, because and they're clipped from several years of being on social media. I think he would say things differently now, would have a different perspective on them now than he would have said them 6 years ago. But they're still rolling clips from 6 years ago, 5 years ago, stuff like that. And he's, I think, gone through somewhat of a spiritual something, transformation or whatever. And I think what's significant also about the Orthodox thing is that Roosh V, who in many respects, all of that, the whole game culture, all of that stuff, you know, the PUA thing, he's the one that sort of really kind of solidified and kind of created a sort of money-making sort of apparatus around that kind of content. Of course, he totally, you know, unpublished all of the stuff that he did before, took his channel down, everything else, and he went Orthodox Christian, which is really, again, is interesting. I think one reason it's interesting is because Orthodox Christianity is one of the only forms of Christianity, one of the only forms of Christianity where the whole feminist thing hasn't totally just come in and totally created weird, weird issues with traditional roles. So men have a particular place, women have a particular place, and there's no sort of muddy in the water, with the whole sort of, feminist stuff. So I think it's interesting that both of those guys chose that, because there's a definite masculine sort of dominance in Orthodox Christianity, which I think is compatible with a lot of their sort of worldview. As far as him being this sort of harsher version of Kevin, I guess I've just always thought of that as being a collective thing. And there's a number of guys that I think have maybe nobody has created as much buzz as Andrew Tate now, but there's a lot of folks, and the sort of proliferation of the message is undeniable, just based on everyone has seen the TD Jakes recent TD Jakes thing, where the next week half the congregation's gone because he went in on saying a lot of stuff that Kevin would say. But anyhow.
So what do you think about it? Keep 100. What are your thoughts on him being like a harsher version of Kevin, or that guy who would just really push it to the limit, man?
I mean, and Donnie Mac says, "Keep it 100. Wake up." Been up since 5 in the morning, man. Check it out. I've said that myself. I've said that he would be, or that someone would come. I said someone would come and be worse than Kev. I told all my female friends that. All the girls that would say, woo, woo, hooping and hollering. That's right. That's right. What happened when you talk about black women? That's right. It's like, all right. Now, my female friends, they like me, so they give me a pass. But there's going to be somebody you ain't going to like. And when they come along, you're going to be wishing for Kevin back like white folks wish back for Martin Luther King. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, man, we want MLK back. We can't deal with y'all.
Early MLK. MLK. Because late MLK didn't like him either.
Right. So, and it's going to get worse. You get rid of Tate. Okay.
Oh, my God, yeah.
You got rid of the good guy. Now you're getting rid of the not so good guy. So what's next? What's next? I know I ain't nice. And the thing about it is, like I joked earlier, about being canceled. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine, he's a rapper, and he posted something that Andrew said, and girls was going at him. So he's asking me, should I take it down? I said, yeah, take it down. I said, because you can't handle like that smoke. Yeah, you can't handle that smoke. I said, now me, they already don't like me. So I can handle that smoke, right? I said, I'm Vader. It's too late for me. Right. So, again, like for the guys who already giving out this message, I mean, I remember Manosphere 1.0. And I remember all those guys who were on YouTube originally, and they flagged them all off. I remember that. And, because there's this idea that the Manosphere started in 2015, and it didn't. It was before that. And I remember, the Thugticians and the Sergeant Willie Peace and all these guys, they got flagged off of YouTube. Right? So I'm wondering, will we see that again? Again, like, you guys mentioned someone else, but this is the first time I've seen someone get flagged off everything. Everything. He ain't talking about killing nobody. He ain't talking about, doing nothing crazy. you know, but he's flagged off for everything, right? And again, like, people are gonna continue to chop his stuff up, remix it, post it on the internet. You're gonna have to get a Andrew Tate task force to delete everything that they post on this guy, or get some software that recognizes his face or his voice and automatically delete it. You understand? I mean, aside from the political stuff, I mean, you know, we talk about, you know, the passport stuff. You know, once you do this type of stuff, you know, this enables, like, people talking about Trump enabled the racists. This is enabling the feminists. They're gonna look at it like, yo, we can really talk crazy now. Yo, I was just on Facebook, you know, this woman talking about, you know, if she could be a sniper or something like that and kill black men. And that lives. That gets to live.
Like advocating for selective abortion of black male babies.
Right. All this divestiture talk. They give that oxygen. Like, that gets to live. Right? You could talk crazy about, you know, black men. It's one thing, okay. People talk crazy about white men, the comedians talk crazy about white men, all that stuff. You know, comedians talk crazy about, you know, the letterbox people. That's an issue you got to cancel. There's people you can't talk about here, right? And, you know, it's all that, you know, the super left stuff, right? But, you know, I told my homegirl, I said, yo, it can't run without men. None of it. It can't run. You can't run it. I got a video. Before people really started rocking with me on YouTube, I got a video called "The Tightening the Bolts," and what that means is somebody has to tighten the bolts. Somebody has to maintain this. Somebody has to, you know, repair the bridges and keep the electricity going and all that stuff, and fix the train tracks and stuff like that, the dirty stuff. And women are not going to do that. You know, we haven't reached the point where the robots are fixing the robots. So if they want to make it about, you know, like you guys were talking about, making this masculinity this evil thing, remember, you need masculine men to run it. Like, we need to maintain it. Even if you're just, you know, if you say, look, like, you're slaves, just run it. You need us to run it. And we got to want to run it. Everything that these women are doing, they can't do alone. Like, even the feminism is, you know, being supported and maintained and enabled. And they can't even do that by themselves. In order for this man to get banned off of social media, in order for, you know, these laws to happen and this and that and the other. And I tell people all the time, because everybody want to talk about the thug dude and Pookie this and Pookie that. It's the simp. The simp is the driving force behind all of these things. So again, like, it's just going to get worse. A lot of guys are going to opt out, and it ain't even going to be about us. It's going to be about white men. White men are going to fall back. The reason why this guy, because people are asking me, well, why they didn't do this to Kevin Samuels? Because Kevin Samuels was addressing black people, but this guy, even though he's a black man, he was resonating with the white boys. That's why he was dangerous. That's why he was dangerous, because he was resonating with the white boys. They don't care what we do. They don't care if black men and black women gender war. They don't care about that. They don't want somebody like him to resonate with the white college kid. And that's why he was dangerous, man.
Golden Child says they flagged off Andrew Tate, but didn't ban the therapist who was trying to crap on black men on TikTok. Her account is still up. Yeah, that's facts.
That. Think not that I come to bring peace on earth. To bring peace, but a sword.
That's
Matthew
right.
10, verse 34.
That's facts.
And people forget,
Dividing families.
yep. And see, people forget that, you know, I probably know more about the Bible than most of these people who go to church every day. I had to. I went to Catholic and Christian schools for a very long time. And Kevin brought peace, okay? Kevin brought peace. And a lot of people from Baltimore, and I've said this, I'm a lot tamer on YouTube than my real life.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that I say to people, especially if you know me, my friends know. If you want an honest answer, you go to Charles.
Yeah, that's who I am, and they hate it.
Yep. And
That's
I
why I keep it 100. Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
like each other so much here. and it's funny because the warning was given. If you couldn't make it back with the much nicer, calmer, smoother guy, wait till you get the more bombastic, ballistic, not giving a damn, doesn't
Right.
apologetic. When he becomes a catalyst to white boys, it's something that's moving because what can you really say to Andrew Tate? He's 6'3" and he's a 2-time world champion kickboxer.
Right.
You can't physically intimidate him. He literally had a job for a while of knocking people out. He's got money. He's in shape, not a bad looking guy. And it goes back into what can you really say? It's the same thing with Kevin. You couldn't say much because you deep down inside, you really wanted him, ladies. These are the type of men you really like. The men who put you back in your place, the men who tell you no. Those are the men you crave. You read those romance novels. Why you at your job on break because no man is texting you in the middle of the day checking up on you. This is the man that you want. It's not the man that you want, it's the man that you need. And see, what's happening is a revolution. It's being televised and live streamed. And when these young boys are being brought up and saying, you're telling these boys, girls and boys are equal, okay, we're going to make you that a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going to hold you to that equality.
Right.
We're going to make you
But you know, guys, I think so, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. And I know it's getting late, so I'm not going to keep you all up too much longer and everything. You know, yeah, they've removed him from these platforms, but is censorship, and you know, so that you know, as Keep 100 suggested, you know, the next step, possible step rather, is for YouTube to do what it did in the past, you know what I mean, back in 2017, 2015, and, you know, try to clean house and stuff like that. Do you think even if they make that attempt and they try to clean up the space and get rid of all of us, do you think that that's going to ultimately keep our voices from being heard? I mean, you take this guy down and you do him like Trump. I mean, we haven't heard. I mean, Trump ain't been on Twitter for I don't know how long, right? But he's still got an underground following, above and underground following. You know what I mean? And got his own. I don't know what's it called. He got his own uh, social
Social
media thing.
media. I think it's called I forget,
Twitch, is
man.
that Twitch or Flick or something like that or whatever? And yeah, man. And so, I mean, do you think that this is only going to amplify what is being said now with the censorship? Do you think that it's going to cause the brothers or people to go into retreat mode?
good
I,
doctor.
Mhm.
I'm gonna let Marcus go. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna say this real short, right? It's kind of like, you know, what happens with a lot of you know, the shock jocks and stuff like that. Once they say something and they get thrown off a radio station, what happens is, you know, if they got a contract, they live out their contract, you know, doing nothing, because you got to pay the man the contract. But once the contract is done, you'll have some sort of platform that'll take advantage of what the big dog let go. So, for instance, a platform like maybe Patreon or something like that, or maybe Sirius might give them a platform. Like, this is what happens to these guys, like the Don Imuses, the, you know, Star, you know, Buck Wiles, the you know, the what's the other guy's name? Howard Stearns. Like, these guys get picked up. I mean, look at Joe Rogan,
Joe
man.
Rogan, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the most that can happen is the advertisers fall back. But if anybody that's you know, broadcasting, or, you know, anybody with a channel, anybody with a network sees an opportunity, man, you know, stuff like this, somebody probably will come and give this man a deal for something. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's built in. Is the audience is built in. There's too much money being left. Somebody's gonna want that money. It's the same reason why Netflix won't let go Dave Chappelle. It's too much money.
There you go.
Right. So, you know, it's like, okay, nobody wants to, because Netflix knows if it drops Dave Chappelle, one of those other streamers, they're gonna pick him up right away.
Yeah.
Right away. They know what you, this is what you throwing this. They're gonna dig in the dumpster and pull Dave Chappelle right out. and put him in the living room like throwing away furniture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think, to me personally, I think this might be an opportunity for Andrew Tate. You know, we talking about his money. You know, right now it's I mean, somebody gonna buy a story, like he might get a documentary, like it's gonna be some opportunities gonna open up for this guy because of this.
But listen,
remember I said it.
Yeah. You other guys want to chime in? You guys want to chime in? Because I have one more question I could ask.
Yeah, I could chime in. I could chime in on this. So I've done 3 episodes on Thunder's thoughts on the cancel culture topic. So I did one, you know, about, you know, can they cancel Joe? Talking about Joe Rogan. And of course, the answer to that question is no, they can't cancel Joe. The second one was, is cancel culture the mark of the beast? Which is interesting because, you know, in the Bible where it says that they will receive a mark in their hand and on their forehead, and they won't be able to basically conduct regular business unless they have those marks. And the one in the forehead signifies thinking the same way. And the one in the hand is operating in the same way, right? So in other words, having a conformity with the way that you communicate, with the way that you interact with folks, right? And then the third one was called censorship by another name. Censorship by another name, cancel culture, right? And it's interesting when you have even folks that are on the left and not even centrists, but pretty far on the left, like Bill Maher, who has been so critical of cancel culture, and you hear him coming out against, you know, the whole body positivity stuff and all of that kind of stuff. You know, especially recently, I'd say over the last probably 6 months to a year, where he has been really going in on a lot of sort of liberal sacred cows. So I think that the message has proliferated to the point where it doesn't really matter if they try to clean house on YouTube, if they try to take everything down, it's too late. They should have done that. They should have done that before Kevin. It's too late. The message is out. I mean, look, man, I you know, having conversations even with former students of mine,
Yeah.
And they know what's happening. They already know what's happening. They're watching all the stuff. They know what's going on. They know that the media is a bunch of hogwash. So it's too late. It's already too late. By trying to scrub stuff, it's going to be even more. It's going to seem even more. It's going to make people want to look. Well, why are you doing that? It's too obvious that they're trying to cover something up.
I'm just going to say something to that, is that it's funny how a little pebble, if you put it at the right angle, at the right degree, the right frequency, can start an avalanche. Okay? See, I look at the phases of, the 1.0 of the Manosphere was the awakening of the giant. It reminds me of the movie Man of Steel. You had the powers all along. You just never had the realization. Then, what happened? Once you accepted who you are, what you are, and the amazing abilities that you possess, you went from jumping, from a single bound, and here comes 2.0. Where brothers are flying, where they're debating, where the debates are so sharp. You have people in academia shaking, scared. And this is right at the edge of 2.0, is when the guys of your ilk, of the intelligentsia, come in. 3.0, which is, I like to say, I like to call it AK, after Kevin. 3.0, it's no longer asking to be respected. It's a demand. It's a command of respect. I came up with this title of a show a while back. Either I lead or I leave.
Yeah.
And guess what? We're not taking any negotiations. We don't negotiate with terrorists. This 3.0, we said, okay, you don't want to be married. You don't want to be wives. You don't want to be mothers. The best reversal in wrestling is what? To never get in the move or the situation in the first place. Vamos, be gone, bon voyage, arrivederci. And we're gone.
Yeah, and for that reason, I don't think that there's any way for us to go back. We can't go back. I think that what we've been a part of and everything that has happened up to this point has marked a tidal wave in terms of, you know, men's consciousness, being shifted, you know what I mean? And I just can't fathom, at least in this space and brothers who are consuming what we do, I can't fathom then going back to, business as usual. You know what I mean? And so, um, it's like, going back to what I was saying before about explaining yourself, and it's like, I got to F you. I'm tenure too. You know what I mean? And I'm like, y'all got the heat. Y'all got to bring it, because I'm not changing my tune. You know what I mean? I'm not changing my tune, and I know you guys aren't changing your tune. And we got, and the younger guys. And here's the other thing, man. You got these younger guys who are coming along, and they've are mixing it up and doing it and putting stuff in their own language and everything like that, man. And
Younger guys really don't care,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they getting their passports.
yeah.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, Doctor Thunder. I mean, the young guys are coming like. I mean, you might be like the Army Rangers, but these boys are coming out like Delta Force or SEAL Team 6. They
Yeah,
they just we're not negotiating. We been past that mark.
yeah, yeah. It's like we're not gonna waste our 20s and stuff like that.
We don't
Going back and
negotiate.
forth with y'all in our 30s or whatever, you know what I mean? We just we jump straight on the plane, man, and we out of there. You know what I mean? Um, but at the end, and we'll wrap up, man. Kevin was right at the cusp. He was becoming mainstream, and you know, um, I had a Hulu subscription that I had back in 2015. I got rid of it because I got bored of Hulu, and
Mm.
I went ahead and resubscribed to Hulu just to watch Kevin on Atlanta. Okay, and I ain't kept it. I've kept it ever since. It's better now. It's not as boring. At least Hulu is not as boring as it was when I first had it in 2020 back in 2015. Um, but Kevin was right there in film. Listen, man, I'm gonna tell you guys. I wonder what you think about this in terms of this guy Tate, man. And I say, man, he's the neoliberal supervillain. This guy is Hollywood-esque, man. Um, I think that this guy, they could put him in movies. Now, I don't know if Hollywood gonna touch him like that. You
Oh,
know
they
what I'm
will.
saying?
They will
But
because
but
every movie needs a good villain.
but I think that he can play a supervillain, bro. I really do think he can be a supervillain. You know what
He's
I mean?
Lex Luthor, Doc. He's Lex Luthor, except he can actually fight.
Jesus.
He's already Lex Luthor. He's not a different Lex Luthor. Think about it.
Uh, keep
About
100. Keep 100. Do you think he can go Hollywood, man, like that?
I mean, I can see him doing the GQ thing, the Esquire thing. They might drag him in a few music videos or whatever. I mean, I don't know what his Hollywood acting capabilities are. I do think he's marketable, absolutely. Not just for what he looks like, but also because of what he's known for. He's definitely marketable. But I could definitely see him popping up in something as some sort of a cameo or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know how far we'll go past that, but I could see him being the self-help guru character or something like that, just popping up like Kev would pop up in things. I could see him popping up in things, right now it's the heat going to die down, and then they're going to throw him in stuff. I'm telling you, like, this guy's not over. He's not over. You know, I think, to be honest, like, it's probably the best thing that's happened to him if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, listen,
memories
guys.
don't live like people do. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so
Memories don't.
I just want to wrap it up, and I want to give you guys your last words and everything. And so I'm gonna start with Dr. Thunder, and then Charles, the officer of the goddamn law, and keep it 100. Line
No doubt.
security.
No doubt.
Yeah, thanks for opening the panel, Dr. Neil. And I have to say, man, um, since you've been not as active, I really have missed your voice. We need your voice.
Appreciate it.
And so yeah, I'm like your biggest fan, man.
Appreciate it, man. Likewise, mutual admiration, brother. We have mutual admiration, brother. Thank you for coming up, man, being a part of this. Yeah.
All right, now you all have a good evening. Let's stay strong.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Peace.
sir. Peace, peace.
Peace.
All I'm gonna say is, may the black lion forever roar.
You go.
A motto of the black lion: we are the pride of protection with the protection of the pride. Always a pleasure, Marcus. Always,
No doubt.
always a pleasure.
All right.
Good, good, good. See you. Thank you, sir. Woo! All right. Keep it 100.
So, I mean, like I said, man, I envy it, to be honest. Like to the point where, where you're banned on. I get banned on Facebook at least once every other month or a few months apart. You know what I'm saying? And nobody notices, except for the people paying attention. But this guy has like what kind of Jesse James shit is this? This is yo, my man is banned off of the internet. He broke the internet with bans. You understand? Like he did his job. Like and shout out to Marvel 318 for shouting me out earlier. Shout out to him. But yeah, man, you banned off of everything.
Yes, sir.
You gotta be a bad motherfucker to get banned off of everything.
Everything, man.
They're like, yo, there's like a bunch of people sat in the room like, yo, man,
We gotta get rid of it.
we gotta get this guy up out of here. This dude is a problem. And I envy it to a degree. Like, yo, like you want to, all of y'all want to cancel. Like Chris Rock said, you made it when everybody want to sue you, right?
There you go.
Like,
there you go.
They follow suit. All of them, yo, we got to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. This guy's a problem. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hope and I aspire to, get as canceled as Andrew Tate. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, Marcus, we gotta get him up out of here. This dude's a problem. But yeah, man, all that's gonna do, and I put it to you this way. Yeah. Kevin is gone. What they're trying to do with this man is they're trying to bury him alive, and it's not gonna work. This guy's gonna rise again like the Phoenix, and is gonna be something like they didn't plan, man. That's it. That's it. This message, it's not going nowhere. It's not going nowhere, man. This message is not going nowhere. If it wasn't him, what's going on, Max Soul Excellence? If it's not him, it's gonna be somebody else. But I don't, they just made this man infamous. Yeah. Right. So there it is. There it is, man.
There it is, man. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. And I appreciate all you guys for tuning in tonight, man. I wanted to really dig in on this, man, because this is real, man. It's about masculinity and the crisis and stuff that we've been dealing with, and so many things, man. Politics. We didn't really get a dive into a whole lot of politics, but I mean, there's so much to unpack, and this is an unfolding story, and I look forward to seeing what happens next with him and other developments and all of that. And so guys, the saga continues. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'm going to sign off for tonight. So you brothers, y'all take care, and we'll see you next time around. BMI, BMA, BME, and BMH. I'm the Mad Professor. I'm out of here.
No doubt. Peace. All right.